We are here to push you, to challenge you, to stop you from shooting yourself in the foot, but also to lift you up and to G you up and motivate you and say, come on, you can do this. You are more than capable of doing this.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Today we are joined by boardroom member Phil Allen from Entertainment Effects, who provide special effects, pyrotechnics and water features to live events covering sports, music, TV and corporate occasions. That sounds like one hell of a job, Phil. So we're going to start with a game we've never played on this podcast before called What Did You Do Last Weekend? I'll kick it off. I fell asleep reading a book in the garden. Jason, what did you do last weekend?
I tried to pair up socks out of the sock bag in the sock drawer and make them match, so we had pairs again.
Fantastic. And Phil, what did you do last weekend?
Well, I'll try and pick up on that. Otherwise, I think people will be switching off after 30 seconds of this episode. I've had a very busy weekend, so excuse me if I drop off at any point during this chat. I've driven the whole length of the country and back. I started in Wolverhampton, where I did a job with Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're doing a new kit launch. We did some filming there. Then I was up to Edinburgh and Glasgow for trophy presentation for the end of season. So big celebrations at Celtic on Saturday and Sunday. Men and women both managed to win the league. And then on the way home, dropped off to Liverpool, where I did the entrance to Jurgen Klopp's leaving party, and as a Liverpool fan, that was a great bit of fun for me. And then trundled home just in time to pick the kids up from school on Monday.
Oh, fantastic. So, who do you think's won that round then? I'll tell you what, Phil, we were talking just before you came onto the room. Luke, who works with us, lives in Liverpool, and I spoke to him on Monday and I said, oh, what did you do at the weekend? He said, I went away, saw the parents, came back to Liverpool and watched Bridgerton. I'm like, wow. So all the Klopp celebrations going on and you watch Bridgerton. Fantastic. That sounds like the most exciting job in the world. Is it?
It's great fun, but the good bits are very short. So during that whole time away, I think I counted it was about 70 hours I've been working over those couple of days. A huge amount of it's been in the van, going backwards and forwards, although I've been listening to some interesting podcasts from all your previous one percenters. A lot of what we do is a huge amount of preparation. There's a lot of stress leading up to it. Saturday was really, really stressful. And then, we fire our products and it often lasts for sort of between 1 and 3 minutes. So the really exciting bit is great. It's a real high, but it doesn't last long. And there's, hours and hours of sort of build up into it. There can be quite a lot of waiting around. Some of it's outdoors. So this weekend was beautiful, but it can be outside in terrible weather. So no, it's a real roller coaster. There's absolutely brilliant bits of it. Sometimes, things don't go perfectly to plan. Sometimes your products, let you down. Your staff let you down. But no, overall, it is a great job. Whenever I meet people, people are always sort of fascinated to hear about it. It's taken me all over the country. I get to meet all kinds of interesting people. And ultimately, I go to events that thousands of other people are paying to go to, and I'm being paid to be there. I don't get exactly the same experience as a fan. There's sometimes, there's people in the stands having a beer, relaxing, but I get to, backroom access, or I can get to go on the pitch. And I had a high five with Jurgen Klopp once on the Wembley pitch. So that was one of my career highlights. So yeah, it's great, but it's probably the most, I'm sure, well, there's a few, but it is very, very stressful because of the dangerous element of what we do.
Yeah.
We've got to be really careful of what can go wrong. And also there's millions of people watching, there's the official TV cameras, but everyone's got their mobile phones out. If anything were to go wrong, it's going to be all
I
over.
can't believe you accidentally packed blue smoke for the Celtic celebrations. I mean, who believe it?
Well, you say that's quite funny, but I sent the lads off to go and set up the confetti machines, and one of them hadn't been emptied from the previous job, which was a Rangers job, so it was filled with red, white, and blue. So, one of the lads came back from the van saying, "No, we've just stopped an international incident because if we'd set the wrong colour off, then I think there'd have been 60,000 very unhappy people." So, there are little, thankfully that isn't a mistake we've made, but someone could put the wrong box in or not notice, and there's plenty to go wrong. But
definitely. So
when it does go well, it's fantastic. Like you do get real adrenaline rush from it. I think that lots of people dream about being a professional sports person, and actually running on the pitch sort of 20 seconds after the final whistle's gone and being in the middle when all the fans are cheering and you're near the players, it gives you like a little glimmer, maybe a 10% sort of feel of what it must be like to be one of those guys.
You're that guy who donned a tracksuit, nicked a press pass, and stood with the Man United team in '99, aren't you?
I could be tempted, yeah. I mean, John Terry's managed it, hasn't he? Maybe I'll do that on my last ever gig. I'll sneak in the background just as
full kit it up. Absolutely.
Who's that really old man playing for Liverpool? I'll have to have an early retirement to get that one to work, I think.
Definitely. So we started this podcast up in Scotland with the title presentation for Celtic. I want to take you back to Scotland, or particularly a drive to Scotland 3 years ago. Can you tell us what life was like, what the business was like at that time, and what happened on that drive?
Yeah, well, that's where I got to first tier review. So I used to do all my drive. I used to drive a lot more than I do now. It's quite infrequent that I go to Scotland. I used to go much more often, and I spent most of my time listening to the radio, often talk sport, where they just talk about the same rubbish, one show after another. And, I was just plodding along in the business, really. The old adage you always talk about working in the business, not working on the business. I didn't start this business, but, it's like a family business. I joined it about 12 years ago, but I've worked for some big kind of corporate businesses. And I think I just thought, I'll just go and run a business, but didn't feel like I kind of needed to educate myself in any further way. And that I just kind of get on with it. But, we're just sort of trudging along, very minimal sort of annual increases, probably just kind of in line with inflation, really. So it looked like we were making a little bit of progress, but really probably just standing still for about 10 years. And I think the big sort of inspiration and stuff for me was looking at a couple of other businesses within my industry, and there were two that really stood out. One was another company where they'd got some really good growth. The two owners had basically managed to do a false exit. Plug your book a few times here, John. And the guy, one of their main guys, they sort of promoted him, give him a few shares, and then he ran the business. And I'm pretty sure both of them actually emigrated, one to south of France, I think one to Greece, and then they literally sat on the beach while some other guys running their business. And then there's a couple of other guys we know. One's probably in his 60s, another in his 70s, where they're still out there doing every single job, same way that we were running around the country, which is fine when you're a young man like me in his mid-20s.
We've got the filter on, don't you worry.
40s, we'll edit that one out. No, I don't mind so much now, but I've got a younger family. I've got a 2 and a 5-year-old boy. I want to be spending a bit more time at home. And my brother and I looked at the situation and we went, right, what we're going to do here, and we're going to try and emulate the guys on the beach, because if we don't do anything different, and we've both said we don't want to end up, doing this when we're, 60, 70 odd or anything. But if we don't make any changes, we're not. So I guess that was the inspiration to sort of start thinking differently. And went on to Audible, searched for a book. Yours jumped out, listened to it, and just made so many notes on the way up. And then, just sort of came back thinking, right, need to do something differently now. And then that's it, really.
Fantastic. What was the first kind of inkling that you thought, I'm going to change this? What was the first light bulb moment you thought, I'm going to do this differently?
God, that's a very difficult question. I think there's just been so many different things that I've changed. It's hard to kind of pick one out, really. I guess the biggest one that we've spoken about is stepping back and making the business less reliant on, like my brother and I. We had one main employee at the time. He's left since. He worked with us for about 10 years, but there were kind of three of us, and we just fired every show. And that's the main similarity, I think, about the other companies that I was just referring to, in that those guys, they do everything. And the big thing we've moved towards now is employing freelancers, training other people up, and doing less and less of the actual sort of event management. And I know that's an issue for probably lots of listeners and all business owners trying to step back. I think we felt it was exceptionally hard for us because of the dangerous sort of element of it. Yeah. And not just that, something like, we might mess this up and lose a customer or have to give someone a refund, but it's we're going to injure someone. And we just sat there, never giving trust to anyone else to do it. And then we were like, right, no, that's got to change. These other companies that are allowing other people to do it, there's loads of people out there. And we just sat back and then, actually, is it as hard as we really think it is? The physical firing of the show is, if you can operate an iPhone, you can fire it. It's a couple of codes and a big red button to press. The difficulty is assessing the situation, looking where the people are, talking to the rest of your crew and all that. But we just came out with a process where we just started to train people up and trust people a bit more. So we've now got a pretty simple process where, say we came down to your ground to watch one of your games, down to Plymouth, we'd be like, right, you watch me do it a couple of times, so stand next to me, listen to what I say, watch what I do. Then the next step is for me to hand over the controller to you, and you do it while I'm watching you. Potentially, I would still do the communication first. You'd just be pressing the buttons. Then you progress on to doing the communication. You do a couple while we stood next to you. Then we progress by standing maybe just 10 meters away. So I'll be on the flame one side of the tunnel, you'll be the other, but I can still see everything. And at any point I can radio to you, stop or look behind you. And then you do that. And then once you realize that actually that person's, built up a lot of confidence, then you step away and then you give them the opportunity to do it while you're not looking over their shoulder. And then the feedback I get actually is the guys are much more nervous when I'm around than if they're doing it on their own. They all say now, even if they've done loads of shows, when I come along, the key thing now is, even if I do go on a job and I'm the most experienced person there, I don't fire it. I try not to fire any show that I can, really. So whenever I'm there, I'll be trying to just supervise someone else doing it rather than it. And I find that really enjoyable, actually, just going along and seeing other people progress and develop their skills and that. So I guess that's the biggest step change, and that's enabled us. We've done 8 jobs this weekend. My brother and I can't do 8 jobs on our own.
Yeah.
So yeah, we farm out and other people are doing it. So
I think that's really a good, interesting way of you teaching other people to do it, to be fair. I mean, it works in my background is in obviously nursing and medical and stuff like that, and obviously works there quite well in terms of you watch one, you do one, and then you teach one. That's the kind of process that you go through. And I think from there, it was always that one where you were watched is the most nerve-wracking one. It's I know exactly what to do. We've been through that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Being supervised is probably that one, which makes it more nerve-wracking than anything else, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'd encourage anybody that's listening that's maybe going through the same process of thinking, how do I scale this? How do I train people up? How do I step back? It's not as as difficult as you think it will be. It's easy to put up a lot of barriers and be concerned about it, but you've just you've got to give it a go. You've got to trust people. You've got to find the right people. Some will work better than others, but if you find a similar sort of process that I've had, 3, 4, 5 steps where people can progress, then you can all do it, I think.
It is a common complaint from business owners that I couldn't possibly let go of that task. That only I can do that job. I would not trust anyone else. That's my reputation. That's my livelihood. And I think the story you've just shown there, which is you're going to let someone loose on explosive items around very, very high profile clients where it is your entire business on the line, and you've let that story of only I can do that, only I'm the only person able to take responsibility for that, and you've let that stunt your growth and cause yourself to work harder than you need to then change that and flip that to, yeah, but how hard is it really? To then, okay, it's not going to be easy, but we can put processes in place. We can train. Every show that you don't fire is a show that someone else on your team gains experience.
Yeah.
And I think I would almost challenge any business owner listening to this now. Are you doing something that is as dangerous as firing pyrotechnics near Premier League footballers? Are you in the O2 arena with how many 20,000 lives in your hands? Do you want? Can you imagine the front page of the newspaper? I know I think reach out to you when there was a fire at Molyneux a few years ago. It wasn't one of yours. Just make that very clear. But I saw the words fire and Molyneux.
I got quite a few messages that day.
Oh, what's he done now? But yeah, I think what you've done there, Phil, is you've given anybody permission that you can let go. Because if you, dear listener, are doing a process in your business now that you feel only you can do, there was a time when you didn't know how to do it, and you learned how to do it, and you stepped up and you took responsibility. So unless you are the only human being on the planet physically capable of doing it, you probably can let go more than you think you can.
Yeah, it's one of my main KPIs on my dashboard now as well. So we record every job and we put next to it whether it was run by a full-timer, a freelancer under supervision, which is that sort of halfway process I was talking to you about, or the freelancer themselves. So we're on about a third, I think, at the moment, sort of 35% being done by freelancers, which is pretty good. And that doesn't mean I'm doing the rest. You've got, full-timers doing a lot of that. So I think that's, I'm pretty pleased with that at the moment. We'll sort of build that towards 50%. But I think, I'm quite a long way away from thinking about exiting the business or something like that. But one of the big things that anybody does, even if you're a huge, enormous company, like people are worried, aren't they, about the person at the top and how reliant it is on it. So if you've already made that step back for a long time, then it's going to be easier to sort of sell your business or move away or something like that if you can prove that it can easily sort of operate without you. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest step change that we had to make, I guess. And then that freed me up to do more other work. I still try to do any new customer, especially like bigger football teams, I'll always go to those. And then especially if it's a new ground, there's new things to learn, I take that on, and then I'll do as many games as I sort of feel is necessary to kind of iron out any creases, bumps in the road, things like that, and then bring, my next sort of level of experience in to sort of take over from me. So sometimes that's big jobs, sometimes it's small. We did a job at Chesterfield United this year, who have just been promoted from the National League. Again, it's kind of a new stadium, new client. It's probably maybe only be a one-time client, but I bet the other guys going to regular haunts like, Chelsea and Wolverhampton, Saracens, Harlequins, and then enables me to go out. And then I get to go to a new place and I get to meet new people as well. And I think the clients like it, when it's a new job and they see, the sort of owner coming along, it gives them more confidence. So.
Yeah, definitely. And even so, you may never do another job for Chesterfield again unless they start a march up the league's Wrexham style. But that's not to say you won't encounter a stadium like Chesterfield's, and it will just be that experience again. That one of those. I know we've talked extensively about different stadiums and different setups, and I had no idea what goes. I thought you just planted the bloody flames in the ground, press a button, and there we go. But no, there's a lot more that goes into it, isn't there?
Well, I was talking to Jason earlier, and he's discovered that he can set them off from his seat where he sits. So he's quite.
I saw the Celtic ones, and it was fantastic green smoke, and I thought, what other clubs have got green that I'd know about? Plymouth Argyle could possibly have the same experience for their fans and for their teams and stuff.
We'd need a teetotaler to be pressing the big red button, I think. So we'd have to be looking towards.
I can volunteer with that.
I did say you haven't got very good experience when it comes to fire, though, John. Fire pits
yes, I did once fall on a fire pit and waffle my leg completely. Yes.
I find it really interesting. So you managed to get the team in place. That kind of freed your time up a little bit, and appreciate family and stuff is going to get the benefits of some of that. But you put some of that back into the business as well. You're able to do some work on the business rather than being stuck driving thousands of miles in the week, kind of thing. Really. So, what did you use that time in the business to do? What did that enable you to do?
A lot of it we had really big growth. Some of it's to do with bits that I've been doing due to like reading books, 1% Club, and all the changes. But we've also, I'll be honest, we've been lucky. We've been in the right place at the right time. Our whole industry has definitely grown. I've read a book called The Surge. I think it's by Mike McCowich, and it's about if you get in the right place at the right time, make sure you really make the most of it. So a lot of our growth has just been around like more and more clubs just seeing other people do it and wanting to take it on. So it's been quite good from that point of view. But because we almost now have trebled our business in a couple of years, my main focus over the last little while has just really been on ensuring the quality of the, and the service that we provide, ensuring that we don't make a mistake and drop backwards. So we've got in a really good position now by proving all the sort of processes and procedures. And then so the next year, and that's sort of looking at the boardroom really, and the conversations as we do this morning are going to be more about spending the time looking onto marketing to try and grow the business. But we have developed quite a lot on our sales quotes. I think really improving those. I sent one out to an important customer last week, and 2 different people in their business, and one actually rang me up 5 minutes afterwards and was going, wow, that quote document's incredible, really impressed with that. And then when his boss replied to the email, he actually made comment towards how good and detailed he thought the document was. So that's really encouraging. We also got a job at Fulham earlier in the year where I asked for some feedback. Even though we'd won the job, I asked for some feedback who I'd been up against. And he told me that we were actually the most expensive out of the 3 people he went to, but he was impressed with the sort of quality of it. So I think elements like that, it's hard to really quantify exactly how you do it. But we've invested more in technology. I think that's where we've spent sort of quite a lot of the time, which has helped us again. You can build a process, you can write one down, you can try and get everyone to follow it, but it's hard for that to happen. Whereas if you buy some computer software and everyone's kind of forced to follow a very specific pattern, then that delivers much better results. So yeah, John was saying earlier, just before we started, think about other people that might, be doing a long journey or that were in your position a few years ago. And I think one of the things that I would recommend to people is definitely you need to, spend money to make money or speculate to accumulate, however you want to do it. I was always quite resistant to spending cash where I thought I could do something cheaper myself. So we started off years ago. I was like, oh, we'll build our own website, or I'll go on my own little SEO course. I'll read SEO for Dummies, and I can do it myself. And you can't do it. And I'm sure everybody, listening's heard about things of looking at your worth. Is your time worth £100 an hour, but you're doing £10 an hour tasks, things like that, and subbing out anything that you can buy cheaper than the rates that you sort of calculate like that. So I spend a lot of time. I used to be a bit of an Excel geek, and I was like, oh, I don't need that software because I can do it in Excel. I can do this. But we've since progressed, and I think we're just so much more efficient now due to having some of that kind of technology. So when you're looking at investing in something, the easiest thing for everyone to do is, that's going to cost me £30 a month per person. And then, I've got 5 people, £150 a month, multiply it all out, that's quite a lot of money. But you need to be looking at that. No, but what does it deliver? What results can I get from it? And I was definitely just too focused on, don't want to spend there, don't want to spend on that. I was listening to Michelle's podcast. I'm sure she'll, listen to this. I think she's an avid listener, isn't she? And she was talking about not wanting to join the 1% club because, the £100 a month was too much. And, now she's paying, more than that in the boardroom and everything. And, she's seen the benefits, but she was really focused on that £100. And I've done that. Whereas now we've got, we use a program called Current RMS, which basically holds all of our stock. We can do quotes on there. We do all of our planning, creates our load list for our vehicles. It's all really, really accurate. Again, that used to be done on Excel. We've got and lots of the programs interlink with each other as well. So we've got one called Team Track, where we can book all of our crew, send out all our production documents. They link through. It all links to Xero, which is an online accounting package, which I'm sure most people have heard of. And then most recently, we've just started up another one called Pipe Drive. That's something I'd really recommend for people to look at, which is like a CRM tool. And again, I used to have an Excel database that people would, fill out every time, but nobody really filled it out. Whereas everybody's like really engaged by this Pipe Drive one because of the quality of the data that it spits out. It's just so much quicker to fill out. Excel's only so good. Like if I write 1% club as the client, but I write ONE, but somebody else writes the number one, if you're trying to do a VLOOKUP or a pivot table in Excel, if people are writing differently or they put a space in there, like nothing works. Whereas on the databases and that, like you load a customer up and you start typing it in, you can't get the duplicates in the same way, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we've just spent lots of time. I was trying to think of all the different things that I've done, over the last couple of years, but I must have done 100% improvements. There's so many different ones. And I think the other thing I was thinking about with regards to the other people, thinking about my journey from 3 years ago is it's not all just about the revenue. I think some people, if they're thinking about joining the club, or how, every improvement doesn't have to drive extra cash. It might be, just improving efficiency, improving quality, making things easier for yourself, more accurate. Every improvement doesn't have to deliver you another £1 revenue or another £2 revenue. Because I think sometimes people look at it and think, God, how can I, I can't keep just making more and more money. It's not that simple, but it's not all about the money. It's the lifestyle business. That's the whole thing that it all feeds back to. Just find it so that every time you talk about something, it links into one of your other books or one of the other conversations. It's like a little merry-go-round, really. But I think that's why it's quite fascinating.
It is a flywheel. There you go. Yeah. Flywheel ecosystem. Yeah, it's really interesting. You said about investing in technology. It's something that I certainly remember when I first started out. I had no money, so yeah, I had to have free web hosting. A free domain name, free email address, taught myself coding. But then when I started earning £100 a month, right, we better upgrade this to very, very, very cheap hosting, a very, very cheap domain name, and a little bit of software that might cost me $10 as a one-off fee. And as people grow, and I see this time and time again, people do get fixated on the price. We heard it today from a current 1% who said, I nearly didn't join because of the price. The price nearly put me off. That's a lot of money. Then I realised, hang on, it's not. That's only, and he converted it to kind of what he does. And it's like, it's only an hour of my time. If I use this club to save me an hour or save me 3 hours, I treble my return on investment. And it is that word invest. Because I've done it, I've seen the cost of a bit of software and gone, $150 a month. That's $1,800 a year. That's a lot to spend. It is a lot to spend, but it's not a lot to invest. And if that $1,800 spend generates $2,500, well done. You've just made $700 out of thin air. If it makes you $700 and saves you an hour a week, well, you've just saved a working week and a half on top of the $700 profit. That's a very good investment. And I think not enough people actually think about that word invest. And the word I think Warren Buffett says investment is just spending money today for more money in the future. And that's all investment is. So if you're investing in technology, if you're investing in in yourself, in your own personal development. The danger there, and I know, Jace, you've seen it as well with maybe some 1%ers as well, is that there's a fine line between investing in technology and getting a good return on investment and collecting subscriptions. I'm talking to the AppSumo junkies that might be listening to this, who, well, I bought it, it was a good deal, and just in case I ever need it, I've got this bit of software. How do you track, how do you make sure that you get a return on investment from your investments in tech?
That's probably a bit of a weakness of mine, really. I think because I've been in this growth period, it always feels, like I've not worried too much about assessing every single individual decision. A lot of it's just kind of like my gut or my impulse, really. I think we've definitely just so much more efficient in the fact that when I joined, there was 4 of us. We've kind of fluctuated a bit. We're up to sort of 6 at the moment, but we're doing 3 times the amount of work, and we're doing loads of extra development stuff for the same amount that we used to do. I mean, I look back at some old figures during April, because that's been one of the biggest year-on-year increases. We used to turn over an average of sort of 12 or 13k. It was a really quiet month. And last month we turned over more than £100,000. And even in one day, we did £30,000 worth of business. I'm like, we've done double what we used to, nearly triple what we did in a month in a single day. And the fact that we can do that, it's hard to put a value on it, but it's kind of priceless, really, I guess, being able to do things so quickly. So, I don't tend to worry too much about the whole test and measure. It's not something I'm a huge fan of. I probably, when I start doing more of my marketing, because that, can have quite a big spend to it, it's probably something that I'll have to work with you guys to spend a bit more time on it. But I think there's so many different ways that you could measure the improvement with some of the technology.
Yeah.
But the quality and the speed are the 2 biggest things. And I think for me, the gains have been so big and so obvious, just from looking at the business, knowing how things work, that I don't feel like I've needed to sort of quantify it specifically. I think, if you're doing a huge marketing project, you invested in 1,000 people and it's costing you a lot of money, and you really, had a 10% reply rate on this one and a 15% on another one, and those can make quite a bit of difference.
I suppose, if you're doing 30k in a day, you're not too worried whether your £30 subscription could be downgraded to £25, are you?
No, exactly. Yeah.
I think one of the secrets is to spot the gaps. I think the problem with the AppSumo and other lifetime deal and other places that you can get subscriptions and things from, the difficulty with those is those people who go off and look through their directories and go, oh, I might have a use for that, or I could find a use for that, or that could be really, sometime it may be useful, I must go and do that. Whereas the more sensible idea, or the more sensible approach is actually, I've got a use now, I need to find something to use that for. What can I find there? And that may be something that's on AppSumo, that may be something that's on another platform. It may be a standalone piece of software that you buy in, and for yourself it was a good CRM system that you've invested in order to get the processes and everything working right for you. You identified that gap, or I think we did it, and we went through that, and we looked at something that there was a shortfall that the Excel spreadsheets weren't helping you with. Was there something else? And yes, there was. You identified the gap and then found the bit of software that was going to work for you. And I think that's that secret, and that's the only way I think you can get a return on that investment, whether that's time or whether that's more money or whether that's following up and making sure that you're getting the things in, is identify the gap first, and then go and look for the bit of software that's going to fill it for you.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things I've been so pleased to see in your journey over the last certainly a year, but probably a couple of years now, is this determination to compound your gains. Because when you had that step change up, and you've trebled the turnover of the business, you haven't just rested on your laurels and said, "Oh, great, let's have a nice fancy holiday in a brand new car." You've gone, right, how do I reinvest that into better kit, better tech, but also more evergreen assets? So there you go. I'm getting one of my own books in there now. Things like the water fountain, things like actually the hire catalogue. You're upgrading every element of the business. You are de-risking certain elements of the business, which could be part of a trend, into more, and almost like, it is, you are owning assets. And I know if we look at the return on investment from each of the major assets that you've acquired, again, the return on investment is not double digits we're looking at here, is it?
Oh no, I mean, yeah, some of the products we've had, like the payback on them has just been unbelievable, like 10 times more, at least some of them. We've been quite lucky in a few cases where we've had a couple of big projects. We do get lots of ridiculously late bookings, but the bigger projects, sort of international cricket tournament or something like that, was one of the main ones we got. Those are booked, 6 or 9 months in advance. So we managed to include some products in our pitch that we didn't own, and then we won the job, and then we got, a deposit, and then we could buy the products to complete the job. So we're spending, beforehand. And in some of those cases, the products paid off before the end of the job even finished. We did a hire one recently. Someone wanted to hire some product for 6 months. We didn't stock brand new product, and they could have bought it for cheaper than the original hire. So we bought it. Didn't really make much money, but we've ended up with an asset. They came back the next year to hire it again, and then we're making the money. I've just ordered a similar thing, not quite so big, but a client who's come in today to hire some stuff for an event, and we've got a certain amount, but he wants 8 of one or 10 of another, and we haven't got enough. So each time we're setting money aside for asset purchases. And I've just ordered a couple more confetti machines this morning, trying to sort of build that up. So sometimes I'm having to sub-hire a few items in to manage to fulfill my orders. But as I keep kind of, growing those assets, hopefully in, a few years to come, when people are coming in for 10 or, 15 of an item, I'll be able to at least supply them all out of my own, and then I'll definitely be making more. But I'm still able to fulfill the clients', demands, solve their problems by, even if I have to go and get the product from 2 or 3 different people, they're only getting it from one. They only have to deal with me, and I've made their life easier. So that's what we're trying to work on at the moment with the hire bit, which is going pretty well.
Definitely. And you still got that North Star in mind of the 2 60-year-old Phils that could exist in your future timeline. One sat on a beach and one climbing up a gantry somewhere north of England or north of Scotland even.
Well, I've got a little way to go yet. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy most about the boardroom, I think, is the inspiration from the guys. We're all on, we've got lots of similarities in our journeys, and we've got lots of like polar differences as well. So there's kind of 3 of us that are still working, doing a lot of hours, and then there's Neil in the south of France, 20 hours a week, Michelle 3 mornings a week, Nathan, who does work very hard, but he's also looking at doing 3 months in South America, 3 months in Cyprus, I think it is. So I know we look at them thinking, like, this is what we sort of want to move towards. I'm way off at the moment because I need to move down from I'd just like to get to 40 hours a week or 5 days. So I've got a bit further to go than the others, but that's one of my biggest targets, really. I didn't really focus to the huge growth. Like I said, we got on a bit of a surge, so we were like, we're going to ride with this while we can. So the main focus now is to try and be able to get other people to do more of the work for me. So that I can start.
Small business owners kind of want to grow their business and do more and get more customers in and get more revenue, whereas actually the ambitious lifestyle business owners are looking to do less and keep the same level of income, or keep the same level of going in, but actually work less hours and do less things and enjoy life more and spend more time with the family, or on holiday, or living abroad, or whatever the things are to be. You've mentioned boardroom a few times. I think this is probably the first time it's been mentioned on the Ambitious Lifestyle Business podcast. Do you want to say a few words about that, John?
So boardroom is, I think I described it as a 1% club on steroids. It is far more intense than the 1% club. It is a very small group. We've got 6 people who we have hand selected. We interviewed everybody, and even Phil made it through the cut.
It was my idea, wasn't it?
It was your idea, actually. Yeah, it was.
Well, not quite, but
I think about 2 years ago, you said, like, why don't you do something more one-to-one, more intense? And we said, no. 1% Club is all we do. And it was always on the radar of something we wanted to do. And yeah, 2024 is the year we finally bit the bullet. We've been working with 6 very ambitious business owners over the past, 5.5 months. We've been working together. So almost halfway through the year.
Yes,
And it has been so far, certainly I would say, everything we wanted it to be, which was a group of people who would absolutely push and inspire each other to the point of, oh, I love what that person's doing. I really want that lifestyle, but also not afraid to, let's say, butt heads in a very friendly way. Focus, Ben, focus in the boardroom with the best of intentions, knowing that someone has got your back, but is also not afraid to call you out on, well, back in January, you told us that X, Y, and Z. What are you doing about it? And it genuinely has that feeling of your board of directors. We are here to push you, to challenge you, to stop you from shooting yourself in the foot, but also to lift you up and to G you up and motivate you and say, come on, you can do this. You are more than capable of doing this. That's my take on it. What's been your take, Phil?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. The biggest thing for me, and like I started 1% Club, went away for some different coaching, then returned, for sort of various different reasons. But in the last coaching group I did, it wasn't as sort of a personal as this one, but we did use, lots of companies used to get together once a quarter in a similar way we did, but everyone would just kind of sit separately. Someone would talk to us at the front of the room. And I'd do all my 90-day plans and things like that, but I was quite guilty of not then looking at them until the next 90 days. And I inevitably used to do most of the stuff on there, but I think it was more by luck than sort of anything else. It was obviously just sort of the ideas were always in my head. But sometimes I feel like, there was a strong focus. If I did a graph of sort of my focus, it'd be quite up and down, around those. Whereas because we've got our little sort of WhatsApp group where at any point somebody's wants an opinion, or like I created a video the other day, a promotional video, so I shared it with the group, and everyone had some really good feedback, and I made some, some simple but important changes due to it. Ben's just been looking at changing some pricing because he's got an issue with people that don't want to book because of a wet weather sort of cancellation thing. So everybody's sort of giving him some advice. Neil, who's works holiday bookings and rentals, and he has a cancellation policy, not because of the weather, but just people change their minds. So he's got like some relevant experience to share with Ben. And because there's just always little bits of interaction, then we've got regular meetings with Jason, the monthly ones to one with you. I feel like my graph doesn't dip down as much, so that it's hard to sort of forget about the working on it. There's always just that bit where you're thinking, oh, someone else is doing this, and it's easy to get sucked back into your business. You can go, right, I'm not going to work in it anymore, I'm going to work on it. But just things happen, and I think the boardroom's just sort of helping me keep my head above sort of the water sort of more often, really, by just constant little reminders, whatever it might be. Anybody just, Nathan just sending a message about, some great sales he's got, or, there's positive messages in the group, there's issues that people have got, but it just keeps the focus there. I think that's the thing when, it can be a bit lonely, even if you, employ loads of people when you're running your own business and you get a bit tunnel vision, or, just this helps you just sort of keep thinking differently. I think sort of keep, stepping backwards and
a holy level of accountability, whereas 1% Club is really me on a Thursday having an accountable busy session should you book in to see me, kind of thing. Boardroom is a whole new level of accountability because you're not just accountable to me and now John, but another 5 other board members as well, which are all there ready to remember what you said you were going to do and remind you when you haven't and help you when you need it. Fantastic. So we've talked about, this is the Ambitious Lifestyle Business podcast. What does that ambitious lifestyle business mean to you, Phil?
Well, there's 2 bits really. One is certainly just around the hours worked. So my longer term vision is sort of my brother and I sort of sharing the top job, really, that we can then do sort of part time between us to get into the stage where, as I sort of get older and a bit like Michelle's doing, working like a couple of mornings a week, just keeping on track of everyone else. The big thing we're really working on at the moment is sort of building the biggest sort of evergreen asset that we can, which is trying to buy a commercial property we've rented for over 20 years now. I've obviously given a lot of money to the landlord, so we're in the process of trying to buy a small commercial sort of property for ourselves, which, if we continue to run the business, then we'll stay in it. But if, one day maybe we sold the business or closed it down, whatever like that, we'd like to keep this commercial property and we'll be able to rent that out. And I really want to kind of create some sort of generational wealth with it, really, where, we can keep that sort of in the family. My brother, we've both got 2 kids each. So even if in the future that property, the rental income's kind of split between the 4 of them as a bit of supplementary income to their other earnings to help them in the future, and then maybe they'll keep it, pass it down, or where the money could be reinvested from it to buy another one or something or other, because that's the real dream of the simplicity. We work so hard at the moment chasing around, and I sit there thinking, well, if I could be just earning some money renting out a warehouse that we've managed to pay off during the hard work over the last sort of next sort of 10 years with the mortgage or whatever, then that would be something that could benefit my kids and maybe their kids and stuff to come. So yeah, that's the dream at the moment.
Love it. If you keep compounding at your current trajectory, those numbers are going to be very, very exciting. And yeah, if your 2-year-old and your 5-year-olds are now 22 and 25, wow, what a life they're going to lead.
Yeah, they don't know they're born, do they, these young kids?
It's all
they don't live with me when they're 40, I guess, as well, isn't it? Because it's going to be, especially living in the southeast, it's a bit of a challenge. But
yeah, definitely. Cool. Thank you very much for joining us, Phil. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
You can look at me on LinkedIn, or my email is phil@entfx.co.uk. And yeah, if you want to have a look on our website and things like that, there's lots of nice pictures. But yeah, feel free to get in touch if there's anything I can help you with, and I'd look forward to hearing from you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you, dear listener, once again for joining us on the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. We will speak to you, hear you again. No, you'll hear us. We'll speak to you, you'll hear us next month. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.